Tonight it's a great pleasure to introduce our guest. Gordon and I were just talking backstage. We first met in 1971 at a wonderful old club in Cornwall called the Room at the Top, and then at another wonderful club in Bristol called the Stonehouse. They've all gone, all these wonderful old clubs, but anyway, the best thing is that Gordon's here tonight to play in the new Vic for the acoustic alternative. So without any further ado, please put your hands together and give Gordon Giltrap a big welcome.
Thank you, Bristol, for that wonderful warm welcome. Great to be here. I'm in the middle of a world tour at the moment that finishes tomorrow in Essex. you so much. How is the sound for you? I think it's a tad too loud myself. It is, isn't it? Yeah, I thought so. He likes his ears bleeding at the back there. Yeah, I think we'll take it down a wee bit. You see, what happens is Tim and I went to a superb sound check, and then you arrive, the mobile acoustic baffles, and you just sort of change it all and soak it all up. So we'll just have a quick level. That better? Yeah. Shall I do that one again, or what? That's better, thanks, Tony. This is Bristol, mate, you know, these are connoisseurs, they don't want... The great thing about a gig like this, as part of this acoustic series, is that it's almost like an interactive thing, isn't it, you know? I'm an instrumentalist, so I don't do songs. I used to sing. I did 4 albums as a singer-songwriter, and I stopped in 1974 as just an experiment, really, and no one noticed. That's how good it was. But because there are no chorus songs as such, you know, you kind of have to interact with me. So a gig like this, you know, you can actually have a say in what the sound is like, unlike a Black Sabbath concert, for example. I mean, you could say, "Boy, Ozzy, could you turn the bass player down, or would you mind leaving and replacing it with another vocalist or whatever?" Gig like tonight, you can do that. So, well, that sounds much nicer. God bless you, Tim. That's great. That was an old chestnut of mine called A Dublin Day, just to get the old fingers working. I've been playing that tune to open my sets now, I suppose, for the last 8 years, I suppose. One kind of gets into a habit of, it's a safety net, really. It's a safety net. It gives me a chance to get the old fingers working and to get the sound right. And of course, what we're aiming for tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we're as near as damn it, and why not, CD quality. That's what we're looking for. That's what we're aiming for. You know, and I think we've got it. And I'm really pleased about it, because we've got about 4,000 to flog during the interview. Because I like the sound to reflect the product. So what am I playing next? What am I playing next?
Bring back vinyl.
Bring back vinyl, yeah. Listen, if you want some vinyl, mate, I've got a lot of that. This year is a very... this leads me on to the next tune. This year is a very retrospective year for me, because I have virtually all of my back catalogue re-released. The record company, a wonderful little label called Voiceprint, have taken all the wax cylinders and all the vinyl, all the old 78s, and remastered them, digitally enhanced, and we have bonus tracks as well, so they're all coming out this year. And also, I think we're aiming for the 24th of this month, I'm releasing a 6-track EP CD called Yanchology, inspired by a man who was a great hero of mine, still is, one of the biggest influences on my playing, a gentleman called Bert Jansch, hence the title Yanchology. I've recorded 5 of Bert's pieces, I've interpreted them in my way, and I've done one of my own as well, so you can see where the influences come from. So I'm going to do you a Bert Jansch tune now, if I may. This is a tune called Shambatan from 1973. This was on an album that Bert released called LA Turnaround. And in my opinion, this is probably one of the greatest tunes he's ever written, and one of the finest guitar instrumentals I've ever heard. The irony is that shortly after he recorded it, he stopped playing it because he thought it was too difficult. He couldn't get his head around it. And it took a fool like me to kind of, you know, resurrect it and try and play it. You see, I come from the Hank Marvin school of guitar playing, ladies and gentlemen. I'm still using one of these things. It's called a plectrum. And I also use the little finger on the right hand to do all the stuff. And these two just dangle around looking decorative. And I have to try and get everything else going. But Shambatan is a tour de force for the fingerstyle guitar player, many of which I know have played on this very floor. I was going to say stage, on this very floor. Anyway, see what you think to this one. I love this tune, Shambatan. The essence of this is it does actually sound like 2 guitar players. Thanks, Bert. two guitars happening there, can't you? For those of you who've never seen me before, I've already got a clue what I'm all about, and you've just come along out of curiosity. Over the years, I've written a lot of things for the telly, which you may have heard, but wouldn't have known it was me because I didn't get a credit, you see, because a lot of the things you write for telly, a credit doesn't come up, and that's the way it goes. I mean, I'm not bitter about that, it's not a problem. I was the best boy and the gaffer get a credit, who cares a damn about the music? But I've written a few things for holiday programmes over the years. One in particular is still running, the music for Wish You Were Here. I wrote that. If you're impressed, I can tell. And I'm, in a couple of days' time, I'm 52, April the 6th. You want to send cards, that'd be fabulous. But, and I still live in hope of doing the Jules Holland show, because when you think about it, there aren't many TV programmes in this country devoted to music, and the later show is the one to get on. But if word gets out that I'm the geezer that wrote the music for World Bowls, forget it, you know. So if you could keep quiet about that, I'd be really pleased. But I'm going to play you a piece of music now that was written for television and didn't get used because the director said it was too good. Honestly, this is a true story. I wrote this piece of music as a piece of incidental music for a drama series. And the brief I was given was write something deep, meaningful and romantic. Well, I thought, yeah, I can do that. So I wrote this piece of music, got a friend of mine to do the most lyrical soprano saxophone in the middle of it. It sounded really wonderful. And then we came to put it onto the visuals, and the director said, you can't use it, it's too good. He said, think about it. He said, they'll be listening to the music and not to the dialogue. I thought, yes, he's right. You see, any movie you go to see, the incidental music should be there to enhance the visual, shouldn't it? It shouldn't be there to detract. And I thought, there's a lesson to be learned here. I thought, from now on, I'm going to write shite. And I've got 11 albums being re-released this year. This little piece of music is a fun piece. I actually wrote this at a trade show, would you believe, many years ago. I was demonstrating some Ovation guitars at the trade show at Olympia, and there was this little effects pedal called a delay pedal, and I was messing around with this, and this tune arrived. I'll show you what it does, and then you get a rough idea, so you won't be... It's short, but I like it. Now, that's what happens. Every time I play something, I can then play things against it. If you've ever seen the mighty Brian May in concert using one of these effects, you know what can be done. He kind of layers and layers the sound, and it sounds like an orchestra. And the only drawback with it, and somehow it doesn't seem to affect Brian, but it has happened to me occasionally, if you make a mistake, it also repeats that, right? That's the drawback with this technology. You kind of, it's driving you, you're not driving it. Because I've been in the game a long time, as Keith said earlier, you know, we met way back in 1970, but I've been in the game since '66, and I've learned a few tricks along the way, and one of them is if you make a mistake, repeat it 2 or 3 times. That way people think it's jazz, you see. Martin Taylor told me that trick. You can't do that with this effect, it just keeps coming back at you. You see, you can't do it with that, so hopefully you won't be doing too much jazz in this. That was a deliberate mistake, by the way. It's a Les Dawson version. As you can see, I brought a number of guitars with me tonight, ladies and gentlemen. They've all got a different story to tell, all got different sounds, and it's cheaper than a band. This is one of my favourite instruments. This is quite literally a baby guitar. Some people say, what is that little diddy guitar? So it's literally a baby guitar. 3 of the guitars I'm playing tonight were made by a friend of mine called Rob Armstrong, hence the A on the headstock. That one was made by a friend of mine called Roger Bucknell, with filed instruments. And the way this came to be made was Rob Armstrong ordered some mandolin cases. He ordered 3, 6 arrived. A normal person would have sent them back. Not Rob Armstrong. He thinks, I'll make something to fill the cases. Right? And I think the problem is, like most of these guitar builders, they spend so much time on their own, down the shed, running down lumps of roads with them, sniffing glue, and listening to Radio 4. It does something to the brain, I'm sure. But I'm ever so glad he did, because this has got a fantastic sound. And he's made several of these since then. In actual fact, George Harrison, I have this on good authority, George Harrison owns 3 baby guitars because he loves small instruments. In actual fact, he has one of the largest collection of ukulele banjos in the world. And he's also, this is true, he's also a fully paid up member of the George Formby Appreciation Society, which proves the point I've been making. You take drugs to that degree, that's what happens. You know? But this has got a great sound. It sounds, to my ears, like a cross between a lute and a harpsichord. And I'm going to play you another piece that I wrote for the telly. This is a tune called The Lord's Seat. And they wanted something very English and regal and stately homish, because the series Working Titles was about the working aristocracy. So, you know, it kind of fitted in well with this. So what I've done is I've set my reverb pedal to stately home, which is like big and empty. It's lovely, expansive sound. Now you're probably also wondering why I'm moving this to one side in between each tune. 2 very good reasons. One is I tend to breathe rather heavily when I'm playing, like a lot of guitar players I know. I've got a bit of a cold at the moment. It sounds a bit obscene, actually. You don't want to hear me snorting down the microphone. And the second reason is, if you'd like to take a photograph of my new waistcoat and shirt, you've got a clear shot, you see. The microphone doesn't see how I think of you. do a bit of name dropping now. I'll be doing a bit of name dropping throughout the evening's performance, because I'm like that. I'm quite a sad bloke, really. A gentleman is regarded as probably one of the top 6 rock guitar players in the world. A gentleman called Mr. Richie Blackmore of Deep Purple fame and of course Rainbow is quite a fan of mine. He likes the stuff I do, and that's one of his favourite tunes. Would you believe? One of his favourite tunes. He loves it. And when I found out about this, I thought, well, it got me thinking. I thought, well, maybe, just maybe, I'll fit some more pickups on it, you know. Humbucking. What do you reckon, guys? All you guitar players? One of those Seymour Duncan quarter pounders here at the bridge. One of those Floyd Rose. What do you reckon? You can sort of kind of do this kind of. No, it's another tune I've got to finish off. I've got all these things. So there you go. Change of guitar again, different mood. If you like the sound of that, I've got another tune that I've written on it, which I'll play in the second half for you. You're wonderfully quiet. Terrifies me. For years and years, when I started out in the clubs in the late 60s, I used to dream of having doing gigs like this, you know, with a wonderful, attentive listening audience. Now I've got it, it scares me. Without me getting it, you just can't. Never satisfied. Thank you very much. The next few tunes I shall be playing with the blue plectrum, ladies and gentlemen. It's a red one. I think variety is the spice of life. I'll be playing with this blue plectrum. I'm going to play a couple of tunes from an album that I had released a year or so back called Troubadour, and it's an album I'm very proud of. It's a very beautiful album in as much that it's got some stunning string arrangements by a dear old friend of mine called Del Newman, who produced the album as well. You will probably know of the name Del Newman if you've got any of those early Cat Stevens albums. Most of us seem to have a Cat Stevens album somewhere, don't we? Looking away, gathering dust. But Del did all the arrangements on those early Cat Stevens albums, and then went on to work with Paul Simon and Charles Aznavour and Rod Stewart, lots of great people, and worked with me as well. So there you go. Yeah, K-Tel was released on the Troubadour was released on the wonderful K-Tel label. Got that long way round. K-Tel was released on the Troubadour label. Yes, on the K-Tel record label. And whenever I mention K-Tel, people tend to snigger a bit, because of the association with greatest hits and compilations. But they did promise me that when the album was released, it would be available in most shell garages, and they This is a tune inspired by the playing of a gentleman I had the great pleasure of working with a while back, Martin Taylor. We did an album and a tour together. Martin is regarded as probably one of the greatest jazz guitarists in the world today, and I was the only non-jazz musician he's ever worked with, so that was really quite a thrill for me. Anyway, this is called Who Knows Where Tomorrow Goes. Just like to point out as well, I put brand new strings on for you tonight as well. Just want you to know that already. I'm spoiling you, The trouble with new strings is most of you players out there will know they do. They tend to stretch a little bit and the lights affect them, and so I'll need to just to check the tuning every so often. Yeah, still bang on. this reflective mood. One of my favourite instruments, I love the sound of the harp. Whatever format it's in, whether it's an orchestral piece or a Celtic piece, I just love the sound of the harp. And I was shown a technique a few years back which can actually enable the guitarist to sound like a harp. It's a technique called harping. You heard part of it in the last piece. But this is a real featured harping piece. This one's called Nursery Chimes. Chimes. Carrying on in this mellow mood, we get really mellow now, haven't we? I'd like to play you a tune now that I kind of grew up with, and this tune has almost been absorbed into the very fibre of my being. It's a tune you will all recognise. It's a beautifully emotive piece of music, and I think it's almost been absorbed into the tradition, really, this tune. I think it's on the same level as Vaughan Williams' Lark Ascending, this tune. It's really that beautiful. You will recognise it as soon as I start playing it, so enough said. It's a laugh, isn't it? The interesting thing about that tune is, I was chatting to the gentleman who wrote it a couple of days ago, Mr. Bruce Welch, who wrote it with Mr. Brian Bennett when they were both shadows. And I played in the key of D, but he informed me it was written in the key of E. No wonder I'm having problems with it. Though it's like most of these tunes, it sounds very simple. When it comes to trying to transpose it onto the guitar, it's not as easy or as simple as it sounds. It's really quite a difficult piece to play. I find it so anyway, but it's a fun piece. Speaking of fun things, I'm going to play something for you now that is not meant to be taken seriously at all, because it's an effect. It's not a piece of music, it's an effect. And it's an effect I saw being used by the great Albert Lee a few years ago. Albert wrote a song that's become a classic with, I think it's either one of Chaz and Dave, anyway, Dave Peacock and Chaz Hodges, one of those two. It's a song called Country Boy. It's a great song, and Albert plays this outrageously fast solo in the middle of it, using the effect I'm about to demonstrate now. But Albert, being such a fast guitar player, in a live situation, he plays so fast, he plays faster than the effect, and it just becomes a complete mess. I toured with Albert a few years ago. We did a short tour of Germany together, and every night he would go into the solo, but it was so fast, he had to kick this effect out. But it's a slap-back delay effect, and this is what it does. That's all it does. You play that, and that's what comes back. And I was messing around with it one night at home, and this appeared, and I still haven't figured out what's going on. Again, not meant to be taken seriously. Unlike Summer Holiday. Figured out what's going on, but again, there's a bit of fun. I'm going to take you now into the interval with some more fun pieces. Three things thrown together here, because basically they're in the same key, but three completely different types of music. The first one hasn't got a title. I just call this two-handed tapping. Okay. The second one leads into a tune called G&T Blues, which was the only co-written thing that I did with Martin on our album, and that leads into a tune called Country Bluff, taken from an album called The Peacock Party, inspired by the playing of Albert Lee, but really sounds more like a banjo piece. Confused? You will be. Okay, back to the first bit, the two-handed tapping thing. Now, two-handed tapping is basically a technique that's the domain of the electric guitarist. It's two hands on the neck of the guitar, and you need three basic ingredients to really do justice to this piece of music, or to this style of playing. People like Eddie Van Halen really kind of brought this technique to prominence. But the three things you need are, one, a salmon pink Fender Stratocaster. It has to be salmon pink or Fiesta red. The colour makes a difference to the sound, apparently. So you need a salmon pink Strat, a really, really large Marshall stack, okay? And then you have to be able to squeeze yourself into those really tight ball crusher jeans that I'm too fat to get into these days. But apparently, once you get into these jeans, it makes you play faster. It makes you do all those incredible faces. And I can understand why as well. The reason I'm doing it is because somebody said, why can't you do it on the acoustic? And I thought, we'll give it a whirl. So me attempting to be Eddie Van Halen without the trousers. will lead us into the interval, which will be about 20 minutes. During which you'll have a fabulous time. I'll go back to my little dressing room and take some drugs, I suppose. What am I supposed to do? You're applauding for. You can applaud if you want. 20 minutes. Thank you very much. Taking my drugs. Actually, 2 egg sandwiches and a cup of coffee. Egg sandwiches. Lay those egg sandwiches on me. What's the secret of your success? Egg sandwiches. Hey. I'm going to start off this second half with a tune called On Camber Sands. Now, my theory about instrumental music is it should paint pictures. You should see, you know, a kind of a visual image. You know, if it doesn't do that, really, you kind of miss the spot, really. But the picture I've tried to paint with this tune is blue skies, white fluffy clouds, a sandy beach, and children playing on the beach. That's the picture. Camber Sands is a little stretch of sandy coastline in Sussex. It was a place I was taken as a child and left. When my kids were small, I used to do the same to them. You see, I come from a little hamlet in southeast London called Deptford. You may have heard of it. A fabulous little place, sort of nestling in the southeast there. And my grandparents used to live on a place called the Isle of Sheppey. Another lovely spot. But the beach there is all shingle beach. So the first time I saw Camber Sands, I thought I was in the south of France or something like that, and it really was quite an experience for me. What I try to do with this piece is resurrect that feeling of lost childhood innocence that I swear goes the day we start school. That first day we start school, that innocence just all changes with the plasticine and the sand pits and everything else. Anyway, On Camber Sands. do hope you saw the same pictures that I did when I was writing that, Most people want to get their bucket and spades out when they hear that. The next tune I'm going to play you has a story attached to it, how it got written. And it's quite simple. It was written through a tuning that I openly stole from a dear old friend of mine called Neville Martin. This is a true story. Neville is the editor of Guitarist magazine. He's a great guitar player himself. He currently works and has been for the last 10 years or so with Marty Wilde's band, the Wildcats. At the weekend, Neville's a wildcat. It's a dirty job, so I was going to do it, isn't it? I was round his house about 12 years ago, and he was in the kitchen making some coffee, and his guitar was propped up against the sofa, his old trusty Epiphone Texan acoustic guitar. And I just can't resist picking guitars up, for a quick strum. And I picked the guitar up, and it was in this gorgeous tuning. And I said to Neville, "What is this tuning?" He said, "I was messing around with the guitar yesterday. I literally just was experimenting, and I invented this tuning, and it was wonderful." And he said, "But the only thing is," he said, "I can only get 3 chords out of it. I defy you to do more," he said. So I did. I got 4 chords out of it. And it's a gorgeous tuning. It's this tune is the only tune I've ever written using the tuning. It's almost like the tuning was written or invented for this tune. And it's one of those tunes, one of those rare moments of inspiration where I think the tune wrote itself. I describe this tuning as science fiction tuning. All will be revealed. Need I say more? Down the River is a title of a book by A.G. Bates, who is famously known for writing The Darling Buds of May. And what I've tried to do with this tune, continuing this watery theme, is to, if you like, create the moods, the different moods of a river. gentlemen, down the river. I was reading an interview recently with the wonderful Mr. Ralph Whitell, dear old mate of mine, from way back in Guitarist magazine, and he was saying about he loves open tunings, but would never use them because he feels that on stage time should be suspended during a performance, and I think he's right. I agree with that, because all this tuning up can kind of break the flow of things. But I'm ever so glad that I nicked that tuning, because without it, that tune would have existed. So, Ralph, you're wrong. Moving swiftly on. It's getting on for 3 years ago now when I finished a very enjoyable 8 months in the West End musical Heathcliff, which is an incredible departure for me. I was cast in the role of the troubadour, or wandering minstrel, and as you probably know, Heathcliff was based on the Bronte story. Now, we all remember the Olivier Merlot-Oberon, David Niven film, you know, when in actual fact the story finishes halfway through because there's life beyond the death of Cathy. And I don't know whether you've read the book or not, or even whether you actually saw Heathcliff, but you'll know that Bronte didn't write gags, she didn't write funny lines. And it was a very depressing story. When I was asked to appear in Heathcliff, I thought the least thing I could do would be to get the book. So I bought the book and I got halfway through it and I wanted to top myself. It was so depressing. So miserable. But the piece of music I'm about to play you was one of the tunes that I wrote for the show. It gave me the opportunity to do a few interesting things. And this was the only point in the show where one had a little bit of light relief, because it was a picnic scene. This is literally called The Picnic. And it's quite a jolly little scene. As I said earlier, my job in Heathcliff was the troubadour, or wandering minstrel, like a musical narrator, really. But again, if you've read the book, you know that there wasn't a troubadour in Wuthering Heights. That was just a bit of poetic license on Cliff's part to get me a gig, I think, bless him. And when the venues allowed, if the venue was big enough, every night I would appear on a little balcony. I would walk out wearing my troubadour suit and I would play the overture, which would be a solo acoustic guitar piece. And it was nerve-wracking, because I was playing about 4,000 people a night. And because the thing was so exposed, you only had to sort of play a wrong note and it would be heard, you know. And I have to say, a bit of jazz did creep in 3 weeks into the show. But I repeated it, right? And the audience didn't notice, I got away with it. But the following night, right, standing in the wings, Cliff comes up to me, he said, "Oi, the overture was a bit different last night, wasn't it?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I made a mistake." He said, "Yeah, but you repeated it, didn't you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Hank Marvin does it all the time. Don't worry about it." Well, good enough for Hank, good enough for me. So anyway, so I would do the overture. I would be off for an hour. And I had to play a piece of music for a funeral scene as well. I was a barrel of laughs, Heathcliff was. Be off for an hour, come back on again. I would play a recapitulation of the overture on that very guitar. I would have this behind me like this, you see, and I would have the guitar hung over one shoulder. I had to play the overture, then I had to leap up Penistone Crag, whip this out and do some George Formby songs, right? And that was a joke, actually. And do this picnic music. But in order to make the transition that quickly, as high-tech as the show was, I had to mime the overture, which wasn't a problem for me, because I've done Top of the Pops, that's a joke. I'm pretty hot at miming, I tell you, I'm pretty good at it. And it was a very high-tech show. Everybody in the cast had their own personal little in-ear monitors, so we could all hear what was going on. And I had a count of 4 in mind, so I could come in dead in time with the miming. And everybody, of course, thought I was playing note perfect. And it was the only point in the show where I could really relax, you know, I could do a bit of posing, if you like. So I would walk out, and I would stand there like this, trying to look mean and moody, you know, waiting for the count of 4. Then I would bring my hands up and I'd start playing. No problem. Until one night, they forgot to turn the fader up with the counting in. And so I'm standing there like this, and suddenly the music starts. Well, my hands are down here. 4,000 people, right? So it's one of these jobs. I think I got away with it. And you know why I got away with it? Because they were still buying their Heathcliff mugs and their Heathcliff programmes and the ice creams. So I think I got away with it. Anyway, on to the music. This is literally called The Picnic, and it goes like this. Was a picnic. Now, a guitar that's been waiting patiently to be played is this lovely thing here, and it was in tune 3 hours ago. This is called a baritone guitar. I love this guitar because it's got a remarkable sound. A baritone guitar has got a slightly longer neck than a normal guitar, slightly longer scale, and it allows you to tune much lower than concert pitch, so it gives you almost like a piano-like sound. It's a beautiful bass response. You hear that bass end? It's lovely, isn't it? You don't want to do this for the next 5 minutes, do you? Great. This is called Isabella's Wedding. I'm glad you liked that one. You see, judging by the applause, obviously you did. That's a brand new tune called At Giltrap's Bar, which I'm breaking in on this tour. Giltrap's Bar does exist. It's a little bar in Dublin, which I've yet to visit. Some friends of ours have been there and took a photograph of it and sent it back, so it does exist. I do come from Irish ancestry. My grandfather was from the south of Ireland. He came from County Cork. And whenever I play in Dublin, which isn't as often as I would like, because I love Dublin, it's a great town. Whenever I play there, all these people turn up and go, "Hello, we're the Dublin Giltraps." That's what they do anyway. As it's getting near Christmas, don't you find that, once March is out of the way, you have to start shopping for the Christmas tree? Maybe it's a sign of age, the older one gets, quicker time seems to go, I don't know. As it's near Christmas, I thought I'd do my Christmas tune for you. I usually resurrect this round about February, March, and drag it back into the repertoire. Although this is quite a favourite tune of mine, it is quite melancholic. Quite a sad tune, actually. In fact, I'll be honest with you, it's downright bloody depressing. There's no two ways about it. It's a very miserable tune. But it's only 2 minutes long. And it's got a fantastic last note. The last note, you'll love it. It's really uplifting. It's uplifting and optimistic. It makes you feel really good. So hang in there for 2 minutes for the last note. It's worth it. This is simply called A Christmas Carol, inspired by the Dickens story. I don't see you before, have a nice Christmas. Right, this is the point in the evening I kind of like, in a kind of masochistic kind of way, I look forward to this, because this is the point of the evening where I have to play you a medley of my greatest hit. I've had two hits, but this is the one that everybody seems to remember. And This tune reached the lofty heights of 21 in the singles charts in 1978. You obviously weren't born then, but there you go. And was thereafter used by the BBC for their holiday programme. And it was then picked up by Frank Delaney for his bookshelf programme, and numerous other people, TV and radio companies around the country picked up on it and was using it. So it's been very good to me over the years. It even got nominated for the coveted Ivor Novello Award. I didn't get it. I got nominated. I'm not bitter about the fact I didn't get it. And the nominations were Ron Grainer for the Doctor Who theme. I thought, I'm in with a chance here. I reckon I've got a good chance of getting this. And the other one was Elton John with Song for Guy. But I'm not at all bitter about the fact that he got it. I was pleased for him, you know. I was pleased for him. Anyway, needless to say, he won it. And as I was mentioning about the holiday programme, when this was being used, Cliff Mitchellmore was presenting the holiday programme. And when I did Top of the Pops, that was the screen, that was Top of the Pops, you know. It's a funny thing about success, or what people perceive to be success. 1 minute you're like living in dire poverty, you know, and the next minute you're on Top of the Pops, you know, and you're still living in poverty, but you're on top of the Pops because the record's going to the charts. And it's a bit of a shock, really. 1 minute we was doing a college tour with the band and we're sharing chips after the gig, you know, because we didn't have enough money to go around. And the following week you're on Top of the Pops. And I'll never forget it. It was really quite heady stuff, really, because I was on there with Terry Wogan when he had a hit with a floral dance. I thought, this is it, kid, you cracked it. You really have cracked it. Jimmy Savile's comparing. That's where I learned to mime, you see. I mentioned earlier that a concert like tonight is an interactive thing. You can actually be part of this. And I'll tell you how you can do it. We have to pretend that this is a Bruce Springsteen concert, okay? Or any concert you care to name that has an artist that has a string of hit records, okay? And you know what happens as soon as they launch into the hits, usually it's the second half of the show, they launch into the hits, people recognise it, and they start lighting things and applauding, you see. And the artist then leans into the microphone, and it has to be said in an American accent because that gives it more effect. And as deep a voice as one can do, he says, "Oh, Bristol, I love you so much. God bless you." And somebody comes along with a bucket and things, right? So we could do that, couldn't we? For me. I know you're a reserved lot here, but you're lovely, you know? And it would make an old man very happy. It really would. It'll be a birthday treat for me, right? It's my birthday next week. So we could pretend tonight's my birthday. And so what happens is I'll start playing, you start applauding, right? And as the applause dies down, I then lean in and go, "Oh, Bristol, God bless you, I love you so much. Oh, thank you." Yeah? So we do it. You're a long time dead, aren't you, this point? So, okay, I'll start playing and you do all that. Okay, we'll start playing now. Thanks very much. very kind. Thank you. The closest I've ever got really to hard rock or heavy metal, that's for sure. And what I do in actual fact is I start very, very quietly, and then I build myself up into a complete frenzy of spluttering excitement. But before I play this, could you give Tim a very large round of applause, please, on the lights? And Oliver, on sound, sorry, Oliver on lights. A big thanks to Tim for turning it down, actually. And there you go. If you bought CDs, you would like me to put Elton John on it, I will do that. I'll be out there in the foyer within about 5 minutes of leaving the stage. You will recognise me. I'll still be wearing these glasses, and I may be wearing a fluorescent green smoking jacket. I don't know. It depends on you. But you've been great. Thank you ever so much. It's a surprise. I'm so glad. Because you hope, you know, you're standing and you think, oh, please keep clubbing. I'd love to do that. And you did. And here I am. And here we go again. I'm getting too old for all that, I'm sure. I'm going to do you another tune now. This, again, we're dipping into nostalgia here. But this is another one from the Anthology EP CD. And all you guitar players, all you acoustic guitar players, hopefully will relate to this tune. This is the tune that everybody who aspired to be an acoustic player had to try and master in order to get that kind of cred, you know. And it's a tune written by the great David Graham called Angie. Yeah, recognise it? I must have played this years ago. I stopped playing it for many, many years.
I bet you play more notes than us, though.
This version really is very much my own, but it's the version that I was exposed to was the Bert Jansch one. Ralph, you're right. Little tip for all you guitar players, right? Once you get the guitar perfectly in tune, weld it. And I'd like to say a very, very special thanks to you all for not shouting out requests. I had somebody shout out "Whiskey in the Jar" the other night. Whiskey in that bloody jar. What? Will Bowles thing. I'll play a bit of it, but that reminds me of a true story. If you've heard this story before, please forgive me, because I've told it many times, but it's a true story, and it seems to improve in the telling, really, to do with my old mate Martin Taylor, who was touring, doing a tour of jazz clubs in Ireland a few years back. And we know how much the Irish love their music, and he was playing this one club, and there's a guy in the front row, all the way through the first set, so insistent. "Hey Martin, will you play me a request? Hey Martin, do you need a request, Martin? Please play me a request." I think that's a pretty good Irish accent. That's pretty good. So he stopped. He said, "All right, what do you want?" He goes, "Ooh, anything you like." That's the guy's not. So this is Angie, my version of it, from the forthcoming Anthology EP CD. It's a big year for Bert Jansch. It's the year of Jansch. Bert has got a new album out. I don't know why I'm plugging him. He doesn't plug me. But I love him to death. He's a legend and deserves all he gets, really. All the accolades and all the due. He's got a new album out, Castle, at some point this year. Channel 4 are screening a documentary on him in June. There's a book out of his life, also in June. I'm very pleased to say I'm in the documentary and the book. So it's a little bit of a plug for me. So watch out for that.
Thank you very much. I'll just tell you about the last two gigs. May 21st, it's Eliza Carthy in the Theatre Royal, and tickets are still on sale for Michael Chapman is back by popular demand. His last show sold out, and Michael's here on June the 4th as well. And already in the autumn season, I can give you a couple of names. How about Martin Simpson and Rory Block, for example, dates to be announced, but that's great. In the meantime, we just thank once again Gordon Giltrap for a wonderful evening of music and entertainment. He's been a charming entertainer, I think you'll agree, yes? Yes. Thank you for coming.